Love is or it ain't. Then love ain't love at all, says Seth in Toni Morrison's iconic 1987 novel, Beloved. That whole idea of what love is seems to really be following me in almost every single thing that I read. And I really appreciate it because it has helped me to understand love a lot deeper and to interrogate what love is myself and how I can employ a sort of love ethic in every single aspect of my life. So even with the most recent read that I have, the 2023 debut novel by Tembe Denton-Hurst, Homebodies, the idea of love and belonging seemed to be a constant struggle that our protagonist, Mickey, has. I would just say the synopsis that is actually on the back of this novel, but I feel like it gives all too much and all too little as to what this novel is actually about. What I feel is most important is everything that is in between the first and the last pages. The synopsis will tell you the beginning and pretty much the ending of this book, but all of that detail, all of that development that is contained within its pages is equally as important. Homebodies is so many different things. It's political commentary, it's romance, it's a journey of self-discovery, and also a little bit of drama mixed in. It's the story of a young queer Black woman caught up in the whirlwind of everything that life can throw at you. So if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on the debut novel by Tembe Denton-Hurst, Homebodies, keep on watching this video and let's get right into this review. So, y'all, I've had a really good reading month thus far, a really good reading week. This is the third book that I have finished this week. And so if you haven't subscribed to my Patreon, my Baldwin tier, and you will get my weekly wrap-ups, I actually have to record 2 videos that will be uploaded to my Patreon this week. One of my weekly reading wrap-ups and also a new book tales video. So if you haven't already and you want to support me just a little bit and get some extra content, head over to my Patreon, where I upload things on a weekly basis. And I'm back. I'm really in my reading groove and I'm enjoying reading and I'm loving what I've been reading. So also make sure that you check out my most recent reviews. I reviewed Under and Santi Were Here, a YA romance. And I also had a new reading wrap-up where I wrapped up everything that I read from January up until this point. So definitely go check out those videos if you haven't already. But we are here to talk about Homebodies. And so I got an arc of Homebodies a long time ago. Like, I remember when I saw this book for the very first time and I was like, oh, this is very pretty. And I don't even think that I read the synopsis of the novel, but I did see that Honoré Fanon Jeffers and Brian Washington did blurbs for this book. And if you don't already know, the love songs of W.E.B. Du Bois, which is literally right behind me, and the Memorial by Brian Washington are 2 of my favorite books that I have read over the past couple of years. This seems like it's going to be interesting if both of these authors are co-signing this book. You know, I do trust blurbs. I really do trust blurbs. When I finally saw that this book was literally about to come out, we got a couple of copies into the bookstore. I was like, I remember that book. I need to track down my ARC, which was in my closet, like on where I started putting my overflow books. I was like, okay, I need to actually go ahead and read this book. And so I started reading the physical copy. I took it with me on a little road trip. And then I started listening to it on audio when I got back because I was like, I really want to finish this book. And I had a lot of stuff on my plate. So audio is my go-to when I know I'm going to be really busy. And so I started listening to it and I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. So I guess really what I can say about the plot, I'm not going to read the synopsis that's included in the book because it really does give away like almost everything. But Mickey has a stable life, at least on the surface. She has a good job. Her family and her friends feel like it's very brag-worthy. She has a girlfriend who cooks, cleans, and literally adores her. And she also has a gorgeous apartment, what her and her significant other can afford. But In reality, Mickey kind of hates all of this. She really feels herself straining to smile when her girlfriend starts bringing up weddings and babies and all of the details of possibly what their life could look like moving forward. And really the core of all of this, she really feels like she's slowly but surely being pushed out of her job. She's dealing with a racist boss. She's dealing with a lot of microaggressions at work. She is a writer. Her pitches aren't being accepted. She's being forced to rewrite articles. She's not being given big jobs. And so she's really suffering at this point. And so the beginning of this novel really builds up to her being fired from her job. And when she loses her job, that is when everything slowly but surely begins to crumble. And so Mickey really forces herself to return home and really is forced to find out what she really wants and what is meant to stay in her life. And so I was really absolutely hooked to this novel. I desperately wanted to know what was next in Mickey's life. I wanted to know what decisions Mickey was going to make next. Mickey isn't perfect. She is sometimes reckless. She's a bit selfish. She's a bit naive. I really think that at the end of her journey in this novel, there is one question that really stuck with me, and I was towards the end of the book, and I really, y'all know, I love a good quote. There was a quote in particular that really made me think about the question that a lot of us really have to answer at certain points of our life. If we're trying to find happiness and if we're really trying to find out where we fit in this world. And that's this question that Mickey actually asked herself. She says, "Why have I settled for people and places that haven't chosen me?" And so that's really at the core of what you see throughout this novel in a multitude of different characters. And Mickey finds herself navigating all of these various different relationships in the novel. She is navigating a relationship with her father and her mother, who she doesn't really speak to. She really doesn't speak to either of them. She's navigating that relationship with Lex, her girlfriend. She comes back home and stumbles back upon her ex. She's navigating the relationship with her friends. She's navigating this relationship with her coworkers who, after she loses her job, she feels like they have sort of abandoned her, but sometimes they pop back up in spurts. She's navigating this relationship with herself. And so she's trying to find her place. She's trying to find where she fits in. She's trying to find out who is really going to be there for her. And she's really discovering who is really going to be there for her through everything and who is just there for the time being. I think that there were two particular things that I did that I absolutely loved about this novel. One of those things in particular was the complex Black queer women that are given voice in this novel. A booktuber that I follow was actually reviewing Homebodies and talking about when you go into it, you don't even necessarily know that Mickey is queer. And then you start the novel and it's there, you know, especially if you don't read into the synopsis. I don't even know if it's mentioned in the synopsis. But you go into the novel and you don't even necessarily know that Mickey is queer. But come to find out, she's been in a long-term relationship for, I think, 5 or 6 years with her partner, Lex. And so Mickey is somebody that discovered her sexuality when she was in high school. And she was in love with this girl when she was in high school, and they had to navigate that sort of relationship. So you get somebody like Mickey who discovered, who had revelations about her sexuality in high school and was a little bit more open about it with her sexuality. And her family knows, her father knows, her grandmother knows, and they've met her girlfriend Lex. You've got people like T, who you come to learn a lot about in this novel, and she's always been kind of she doesn't want to necessarily, she's not at the point where she can really have a full-blown committed relationship. She's somebody that's not necessarily comfortable with herself in full, and I think that you see that in the way that she navigates her relationships with women. And then you get somebody like Lex, who has also been in this long-term relationship with Mickey, but her mother is not accepting of her sexuality. And so you got that complex relationship with her mother, her trying to balance her relationship with her mother and the fact that she is really in love with her girlfriend. And so you see all of these various different Black queer women that are at different spaces in their life, at different times in their life, have different careers, you know, are femme presenting studs, you know, and they are really living their lives and existing. And I think they're very complex characters. And I love that about this novel because it reminds me of The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. And one of the things that I loved about The Secret Lives of Church Ladies, particularly the first story, I think it was called Snowfall, is you do get this complexity in these characters. And you sort of get this story where you see Black queer women in a different way. You see the vulnerability, you see the everyday life outside of like, you know, like studs being used in like television series, like as like, you know, the guy's best friend. And they don't really have any sort of like relationships beyond that. You don't really see much about their personal lives. And so I was being a little nosy and I went on Tembe Denton-Hurst's Instagram. And she is a Black queer woman. And so I absolutely love that she made that decision to write these complex Black queer characters. And I think that if anything, go into the novel for that, because I don't see that a lot in a lot of the literature that's coming out, you know? And also I think that to go along with that, I really love the fact that there are these characters that are at different stages of self-discovery. Because self-discovery is a huge idea that you see, a huge theme throughout this novel. You see Mickey herself going through this self-discovery journey, but also you see people like her father and her mother. Fascinating relationship that I would love if they had dived a lot deeper into that. Her mother and her father got divorced. Her mother kind of just dipped and started a new life without her daughter. And so I think that was a very interesting portrayal of motherhood and that relationship between a daughter and a mother, because her mother just kind of left and went on to kind of just enjoy her life as a person that almost does not have a child. Like her daughter no longer really existed to her. And that really hurt Mickey. But you sort of see that sort of like a person that the things that happened earlier in their life, they sort of just want to start over. They want to start fresh later in life and leave everything else behind. You get her father who had to start a new life, but started a new life in a very different way from her mother. You get people like T, you got people like Lex, all of those different characters that are navigating their lives and sort of learning themselves and discovering themselves. And, you know, I absolutely love that. I loved all of the, let me not say I loved all of the characters in this novel, because honestly, to be honest, Mickey, I didn't really care for Mickey as a person, but I think that she was entertaining and I think she was great to read because she was extremely flawed, you know, because she was disagreeable, because she was stubborn, because she made a lot of mistakes in a way that I don't think was too heavily toxic, where it's just like, where it's destructive and hurting other people. I just think she makes some, you know, young decisions. She's in her 20s. And so I really, really, really absolutely loved Homebodies, and I think that it is worth the read. I think that it is a super fascinating story, and I think it deserves all the praise and all the love that I've heard and that it's been getting. And so I definitely think that you should pick this up. So it is currently out. Go to your local bookstore, go to your local library, listen to it, do what you got to do. Let me know your thoughts on this story. Comment below if you are thinking about picking this up, if you have picked it up. What are your thoughts? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I would love some dialogue in the comments. Yeah, so Homebodies by Tembe Denton-Hurst. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. I hope you enjoyed this kind of short review. It's not super long. I really wanted to talk about this because I literally just finished this book a couple of hours ago, and I had to jot down my thoughts really quickly and put them out here. So thank you for tuning in. I will catch y'all in the next one, and always remember that you are loved.